So today to show how to quickly paint up a Dust Warfare model with just the barest of effort. I'm not saying he's going to look amazing, but he'll look tabletop okay. Here's what I did. I was at Adepticon and I tried to purchase as few paints as I could. And I wanted to try out the new GW line, so I grabbed a few of those. So this, I got a black, Abaddon black. I got a red, Corn red. These are base coats. Then I got a layer paint. Let's see, Kislev Flesh. And then I got a shade or an inker for doing the flesh quickly. And I don't know what to call that, but the bottom part is Earthshade. Agrax Earthshade? I don't know, something. Also need two brushes, and I don't have a lot of P3 brushes at home, so that might be fun to get a couple of those. So I got a P3 brush. This is the fine hobby brush, which should be good for most of the base coating. And then I got a quick dry brush as well. This is a small dry brush, so I'm going to use the dry brush the entire figure when I'm ready. The only other thing I have with me is a small cup of water. I like to use spray paint lids for my water, so it keeps them nice and short, and that way you can just throw them away and get new ones, and they got a gookie. The figure I'm going to be using today is a British paratrooper from Dust Warfare. And what's cool about Dust Warfare is this is how the models come in the box. He's completely assembled, primed, and even has a little decal on his chest and ready to rock. Some of the models in Dust Warfare actually are pivoted at their waist and their neck. This one is not, though. He's all solid. So basically, when I saw them like this, I thought it would be easily to quickly paint these guys up with a little dry brush and some base coating. So let's get started. First, I want to start with his hat. I like to get the red out of the way. Now, you got to shake a little bit to get these paints warmed up. So there we go. If you tip them all the way back, they'll sort of stay open a little bit. I paint out of the pots. Most professional painters will tell you that's a no-no, and it definitely is a no-no. But I'm a sloppy, quick painter, and that's what I do. You'll paint on the brush. You definitely want to not take it all on the brush. You take a little bit off your brush there. We're going to start painting the hat here. And the goal is just to get the hat base covered here. Get it all covered up here. I'm going to paint this model in real time too, so you can see how quick or long it takes depending on how you look at it. Actually, I have to admit, having my camcorder over my painting surface with this little flash turned on is actually making this easier. I got a lot of light on the guy. It's pretty nice. Again, I can be careful near the edge of the hat here, so I obviously don't want to get his face. I always check my brush to make sure there's not too much paint on the tip. So I just wipe it off on the towel. And I don't think I mentioned this, but I do have a paper towel folded over as my workspace here. Not too bad. And there we go. There's the hat. Now, because I've got this under a camcorder, I can't get it up close to my face and really make sure the edges are clean, but that's normally what I would do. Alright, red's done. Next up, we're going to rinse our brush out and change our paints. So I'm over here washing my brushes out now. Now, if anybody's wondering what I'm using to do this little recording, it's really not very fancy. I've got my iPhone here, and it is stuck into a microphone stand being clamped above my work area. And then when you turn the camcorder mode on the iPhone, you can actually tell it to keep the light on. So I'm burning through battery like crazy here, but we're going to see if this works out. Next up is the flesh tones. Now on these guys, I like to think they're all wearing heavy armor and power gloves and everything, so the only flesh we got to worry about on this model is his face. So pretty much the same deal as the hat. Now, I know what you're thinking. When you put flesh on a model like this, you're like, yeah, but there's so much detail on the face. I really want to call it out. I want his eye sockets to be darker. I want his, I want his nose to be able to stand out and everything. Well, we're going to take care of that. What we're going to do first is get a base coat on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit him with an ink. Actually, like GW calls it a shade now, but it's basically the same idea. It's a wash. We're going to put that on after we're done getting this color solid, and that will run into all the nooks and crannies and get his face looking all shaded for us without too much effort. So, let's see here. And you want to fill in the seam around his hat here. We don't need green showing through between his forehead and his hat. That would just look funny. Now for the back of his head, his hair, I'm just going to paint that black. Because remember, when I was doing this at Adepticon, I only had 4 colors. So If you want to get fancier, you can and have extra colors. Maybe do his hair brown or some other shade or gray. Make him an old man, an old veteran. That works too. I'm just going to go with the 4 colors I've got here today to show how much you can do with really very few paints. Have the model look okay on the tabletop. Okay, there is his face pretty much done. I think. I don't think I missed too many spots. Got a little schmutz on his hat there. You can go back and fix that later with a little red if you want to. If you want to be all clean and pretty. Okay. Alright, and I always check his nose to make sure his nose doesn't have a little drop of goop on it there, so I'll try to, there we go. A big green spot sticking through, and he's got a little piece hanging down there. Let's just clean this line up a little bit around his hat. There we go. Looking good. Face done. Alright, now the biggest, longest part of the paint job's coming, the black. Always close your paints between colors because you never know how long you're going to leave it open and those paints dry out pretty quickly. And I forgot to shake up my flesh paint too, which is why, if you look carefully, there's a little bit of green showing through there. So he's going to be a little darker flesh than the other guys, but that's okay. No two people have the same colored flesh. And now we're going to use our black. So let me shake that up really good here. I forgot to do that. Shake, 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 shake. Now, some people like to put ball bearings in their paints, and that's really a good idea. I'm just, again, too lazy to do it. And if you put a ball bearing in your paint, that when you shake it up will rattle around in there and help get the mix really good and keep it a better mix. And again, I am just a sloppy, lazy painter, so I don't do all those tricks, but those kind of things will really get your models to the next level when you get into this. But again, you don't have to do all that stuff to get decent looking models. It's only if you really want to take it to the next level. Next up, the black. Now I wanted the guy to look a little different, so I'm going to use a lot of black here to get his whole gun black, as well as his. Now I remember I started with the hobby brush, and I realized, wait a minute, that is too thin for this project. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use my dry brush, which also has a fatter head. See that? And it'll be better at painting the black. So let me get that all warmed up here. Dry it out a little bit, get it wet, get it soft again. Get a little black on this bad boy. These new GW pot lids don't stay snap open as much as they should. That one does a better job. Make sure you guys can still see this here. I've got to kind of keep an eye on the camera here, so make sure you can see what the heck I'm doing. Alright. Alright, get the gun all black here. Make sure you get the barrel end nice and black, because that's the part you're going to be looking down. And you don't want any green showing in there. This whole part here I think should be black, so I'm going to paint that all in. If you hear some noises in the background, that's my daughter listening to My Little Pony. So, you know, no free entertainment here. Hopefully Hulu won't take me down for copyright infringement with a little bit of My Little Pony audio in the background. We'll see what happens with that. Okay. And I'm trying not to be too sloppy here, but you can be as careful as you want here. Just go in and get nice and on the edges here, get nice clean lines. Okay. So I get the back side of the gun done here. And front side of the gun. I do the wires. I want those to be nice and dark. Also, I just felt like having a little black on the wires will give me more color to the model, because so much of it is going to be green that I'm going to have a little more color to it. So let's do some black here. And let me get the inside of the barrel here. And this is the tricky part with such a big brush getting in this area here. If you wanted to If I wasn't trying to do this so fast, I might switch brushes back to the small brush, be a little more careful. And again, I'm being a little sloppy here. I'm just trying to get it done. You know, I want it to look good, but I'm just not. Let's get down to here a little bit here too. Boom, boom. That area there done. And we're looking for spots we missed. I missed the back of the wire here. Let's get that. There we go. And you can get as detailed about this as you want. You can get as focused about this as you want. And really get some extra colors in here. Really get it looking good. You know, it's all up to you. It's your models. Make them look the way you want them to look. Having flashbacks to watching those guys on PBS do their painting shows, you know. Like, what's his name? The curly-haired guy that makes the little trees in the corner. And a little tree here, and a happy tree over there. And a little happy black here on this part of the phaser. Now, the other thing I wanted to paint black, I think we got his gun pretty good there. The other part we wanted to paint black was his hair. Remember, because we mentioned, I did him at Adepticon, didn't do the hair, and then I realized, oh, that looks kind of weird with green hair. So, a little black on the hair will help us out here a little bit. So let's get this brush all cleaned out here. Get that all done. You can see how delicate and careful I am with my brushes. I'm sure there's painters out there looking at this going, oh my god, what is he doing? Oh man. Alright, so now the hair. So I'm going to go back to my fine brush here, just to get the hair done, because it is a little smaller area here. And I like to rest, when I'm painting a detail area like this, I like to rest part of my hand that's painting. See how my index finger is against this backpack? I like to rest part of my painting hand against part of the model that's painting for stability. For some reason it just helps me keep things tight. Maybe that's just me. Your mileage may vary on that. Basically, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Whatever makes you be able to feel like you have control over the brush and get the paint where you want to get it. Okay. Look at that. He's got black hair. He's got a face. 2 more steps to go and we're done. It's going to take a little longer than 10 minutes, but I'm explaining. I'm going slow. Now, another thing you can do to paint your models faster is do 2 guys at a time, because when you change your pots, you lose a little bit of time there. So what you could do is, you know, I got 2 guys here now, so I can paint both their berets red, then I can paint all their black together, then paint all their, you know, switch between 2 of them. It'll take you a little bit longer, but then all of a sudden, maybe in 15 minutes, you'll have 2 guys done instead of 10 minutes per guy. You know, so it'll get going faster. Now, next thing we want to do is get the face going on here. Now, for this I'm going to use this ink here, or they call it shades now, right? Sometimes it's called ink, sometimes it's called shade, sometimes it's called, I'm forgetting the third term now, total brain cramp on it. But basically, it's all the same. It's basically watered down paint. There are different thicknesses, different levels to it, and you can get all focused on it. But I just like to get a color that's going to look brown when you're shading flesh. So see, if you look at his face now, I don't know how focused that is, but you can see that all the details on his face, but it's not really jumping out at you, right, because it's all one color. So I'm going to take this ink here. Now what I do with ink is I take a little bit on my brush, see that? Get a little bit of a bead on there, and then dab a little bit off, because it'll come off in a big amount, and then start hitting the model with it. And see what sort of fills in the detail. You can already, his eye is already sort of, darn it, these pots sometimes don't stay open very well, which is a little frustrating. And this one in particular wants to fall over, so let me rearrange here a little bit. I'm not in my normal work area either, so that's probably hitting my, there we go, good, okay. So let's get them all, I'm just kind of brushing this on. I'm not being too fancy with it here. And what I'm trying to do, though, I am kind of focusing on putting a little extra ink in the deep areas. So like with his eyes there, put a blob there, on his forehead. And you can sort of see, I don't know if you're noticing it there very well on the camera, but his face is actually sort of starting to come to life. You can see some lines on there. You can see where his eyes are. You can see where his forehead creases are. You can call it his eyebrows there a little bit. Gives him a little bit of definition. And if you really want to get fancy, you can kind of go in there with the brush and try to put in a little extra dark line where his mouth and stuff. Do you see how that's working now? Now he's got like a face. You can sort of see it there. I'm not sure how good my camera's capturing detail here. I look on the side and see if there's any spots that are super bright. White, we don't want to have that. So there we go. There's his little face there, and I'm going to put a little more up around his hat. I put a little more here on his cheekbone here, give him some worry lines here. I mean, he's a soldier. He's seen some stuff. He's seen some bad things. We're going to give him a little bit of darkened. There we go. Maybe he's got some sweat on him, you know. He's not having a great hair day, if you know what I'm saying. All right. There we go. What do you think? Now he looks a lot more like he's looking at things. Got some eyes there. Definitely got a mouth you can see from a distance. Got some character to his face. All right, great. Final step. We're almost done here. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to hit him with a dry brush. Now, normally what you want to do for a dry brush is you want to make sure his, I'll do this too, you want to make sure his ink dries. So I would normally do 2 guys at a time, or maybe ink his face first. I should have inked his face first, then did the black, so his ink will be dry. But we'll do the dry brush with his face last, just to be, we'll try to avoid doing the face too much. Now, what dry brushing basically does, it only puts the paint on the highest parts of the model and really brings out the detail of the model. Look at his armor. We haven't done anything with his armor yet, so you don't really see a lot of detail on it yet. So the dry brush, we're going to take this, pop it open, get this brush here, get a little paint on the brush, but now with the dry brush here, we're going to dry it off. That's why it's called dry brush. We're going to get rid of a lot of the paint, make the brush, pretty much I want to brush it on the paper towel here until you see how I can actually see the detail of the paper towel. I can see the ridges. That's what I'm looking for. Right? And this might be a little dark, maybe still a little black in there, so I'm going to just dry it a little bit more and get it so it's pure dry brush. And well, I usually test the dry brush on the model the first time on a spot that's not too obvious, maybe his backpack. Let's see how much. It's a little bit wet. See, it's making streaks on there. We don't want to see that, so we're going to dry it off a little bit more. Now we're seeing it. See, on his bottom armor, you can sort of see the details popping out, but he still looks green. That's the point. When I'm using brown here, you know, if you really want to get really into shading stuff here, you'd probably want to use a color that's not brown. Maybe you'd want to use a lighter shade of green to match his armor. But again, this was a technique I came up with when I was in Adepticon, and I was didn't want to buy a bunch of paints because I have them all at home. So this is just a way to kind of bring the color up a little bit, bring the detail out of the model. You can see now. Look at this side. You can sort of see where his pouches are. You can see where his details. You look at this side, you still don't see a lot of that. It's not popping out at you, right? So we're going to go do the rest of the model here this way. Do his legs on the front. A little too much paint on that brush there. Let's do the weapon too. Again, if you want to get fancy, you might do this in different color. You wouldn't do it in gray. You might and brown. You might do it in bolt gun metal or a metallic color to give it a little pizzazz here. I'm just going to do it in this beige color because it's the color I have. I had when I was at the con, and actually it still snaps detail out though, right? You still see now, even on this badly recorded camera view, you can see the detail of his gun, right? And we're getting there. If you look carefully, you can start seeing his shoulder pads come alive. And I'm going to dry brush right over that decal on his chest. I don't care. It'll give a little more weary look. He looks like he's been fighting in the desert. And it makes his decal look more part of his armor, right? It gives it more of a blended in look instead of the separate sort of white paper thing. Also, I'm going to dry brush right onto his beret. Why not? Give his beret some detail. It'll show the edge better of the beret. Do his back of his hair. And again, if you want to get fancy, you could be using different colors here. Maybe a light gray for the dry brush on the top of the black. Maybe a light red for the dry brush on the top of the beret. Maybe several layers here you'd want to do, but you know, you don't need to do all that. You can if you want to. And now you can see the pouches on his belt. And again, if you want to spend more time on this, you could put a nice base coat of a darker brown on the pouches, then dry brush those. It's just a very simple technique to make the model look a lot more alive. And there we go. So there he is. Let's check him out compared to his, here's where we started, and here's where we ended. What do you think? He's going to look pretty good on the table. He's ready to rock. Well, thanks for joining me in this little painting seminar. And have a good day. Happy gaming.